All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a massive deal in the world of AI that has everybody talking. But this is way more than your typical acquisition story. It's actually a fascinating, kind of sneaky power play that shows exactly how the biggest companies in tech are quietly redrawing the map. So let's start with the number that just, blew everyone's mind. $20 billion. That's a 2 with 10 zeros after it. That was the reported price tag on Nvidia's deal with a super promising AI chip startup called Groq. I mean, it's just a staggering figure.
But here's the thing you have to understand. That $20 billion wasn't about making friends or forming a happy partnership. It was the price to neutralize a threat. It was a really, really clever way to take a dangerous piece off the chessboard while making it look like the game hasn't changed at all. And that gets us to the absolute core mystery here. If you've got that kind of cash lying around, why not just buy the company, right? Why go through this complicated, strange-looking deal structure? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unravel.
Okay, so let's dig in. What was it about this relatively small startup, Groq, that made them a $20 billion target for the undisputed king of computer chips? To get why Nvidia made this move, you first have to understand what Groq was building. It all comes down to the technology. See, Nvidia completely dominates the market with its GPUs, graphics processing units. They're amazing for training massive AI models, but they started life as chips for video games. Groq, on the other hand, made something totally new, the LPU, or Language Processing Unit. It was built for one thing and one thing only: AI inference. That's the part where an AI actually generates text or an answer for you. And it was insanely good at it. We're talking up to 10 times faster using 10 times less power. A true game changer. And this is where the story gets really interesting. The founder of Groq, he used to work at Google, where he was one of the key designers of their own custom AI chip, the TPU. And then, Google did something that sent shockwaves through the industry. It proved it could build its latest world-class AI model entirely on its own chips. No Nvidia hardware needed. This was the first real proof that a future without total dependence on Nvidia was even possible. So what does Nvidia do? They go after the guy who designed Google's secret weapon. Which brings us back to this weird deal. It wasn't a buyout. It was a new kind of tactic, something people are starting to call a reverse Acqui-Hire. And honestly, it's a masterclass in corporate maneuvering, and it's a little bit scary. You've probably heard of an Acqui-Hire, right? That's when a big company buys a small one just to get the engineers, the talent. This is the opposite of that. The big company doesn't buy the startup. It just comes in and surgically extracts the most valuable parts: the brilliant CEO, the top engineers, a license to the core tech, and leaves the rest of the company behind. It's still technically an independent company, but it's been completely gutted. I mean, just look at this breakdown. It's so precise. Nvidia gets exactly what it needs: the key people, the intellectual property, and boom, the competitor is off the board. And what's left of Groq? It basically becomes a zombie startup, an empty shell company for investors with its heart and soul completely ripped out. But here's the part that often gets lost in these huge headline numbers: the real human cost. The founders and the C-suite, they walk away with absolutely massive paydays. The investors, they get their money back, maybe a tiny profit. But what about the regular employees, the engineers who worked late nights building this amazing technology, often for a lower salary because they believed in their stock options? They usually get nothing. Zero. Because there was no actual acquisition, their stock is often worthless. And you know what? This isn't some unique, brilliant move that only Nvidia thought of. They are just following a playbook that has become the new standard operating procedure for big tech. It's how you swallow up your rivals without setting off any alarm bells. You just have to look at the pattern. It's happening everywhere. We saw Microsoft do it with Inflection AI, then Google did a version of it with Character.ai, Amazon followed suit with Adept. The language is always the same. It's a partnership or a licensing deal, but the result is always the same too. The key people leave, and the startup is no longer a threat. So why all this corporate gymnastics? Why not just buy the company outright? The answer is pretty simple and pretty cynical: to stay off the government's radar. A direct, multi-billion-dollar acquisition of a hot competitor by a company that already owns like 90% of the market, that would trigger a massive antitrust investigation. This way, they get to maintain what you could call the fiction of competition. The smaller company technically still exists, so it looks like there's a healthy market, but the actual threat is long gone. So we get the how. And we get that it's about avoiding regulators. But what is it that they are so desperate to protect that's worth a $20 billion shadow deal? Well, it's not just about the hardware. It's about their software ecosystem, a massive fortress they have been building for almost 20 years.
This quote just nails it. The real war for the future of AI isn't just about who can build the fastest chip. It's a software war. You can have the most incredible piece of hardware in the world, but if nobody knows how to write software for it, it's basically a very expensive paperweight. And Nvidia's software fortress, called CUDA, is just unbelievably deep. It starts with their powerful GPUs at the bottom. On top of that, they built the CUDA programming platform. Then you have all the essential tools that AI researchers use every day, like PyTorch and TensorFlow, all built for CUDA. And then the final and most powerful layer of defense, the network effect. Millions of developers have been trained on it, universities teach it in their classes, and decades of code have been written for it. Trying to switch to something else is incredibly difficult and expensive. So when you've got a fortress that's strong and a corporate strategy this effective at eliminating threats, you have to ask, can anyone actually challenge this? Is real competition even possible anymore? Or are we just heading toward a future where one company controls the entire field? Well, breaking this kind of lock-in would take a massive systemic change, not just a slightly better chip. There are maybe 4 ways it could happen. 1, someone could build a truly great open-source alternative, kind of like a Linux for AI that works on any hardware. 2, the other giants, Google, Amazon, Meta, could team up to fund that alternative. 3, a completely new type of technology could come along that makes CUDA irrelevant. Or 4, and this is the big one, government regulators could finally step in and take serious antitrust action. But let's be real about where we are right now. The playing field is being cleared. The number of real, independent challengers is shrinking fast. The most promising startups are getting absorbed with these reverse Acqui-Hires or just pushed into tiny little markets where they can't cause any trouble. And all the while, Nvidia sits there with an iron grip on 80 to 90% of the market. So this is really what it all boils down to. The fight for the future of AI has changed. It's not a race to build the fastest piece of silicon anymore. The real question, the one that's going to define the next decade of technology, is who can build or who can break the entire software ecosystem. And that leaves us with a pretty big question. In a game where one player is getting this powerful, can true competition really survive?